Hi folks, we're going to take a look at the questions from number 5 on the Unit 6 Lesson 4 worksheet. So they're asking us to factor these three trinomials. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So first thing I notice about B is that I've got two prime numbers in the A and C position. So I know that's going to make my life a little easier. So I know that the only thing that's going to give me 3x squared is going to be 3x and x. So in fact, not a bad idea to just input that right away. All right, so I just have to figure out which order I'm going to put the 2 in. Is it going to be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1? Okay, so I can just play around with this here, or I can create my little chart on the side. So I know I have 1 and 3, and here I know I have to have 1 and 2. It's just a matter of how they're going to be multiplied. Now here they have to add up to -5 and multiply to +2. So it makes sense that everything's going to be a subtraction here. So I'm going to have two negative numbers that multiply to a positive number, and then all the outside and the inside terms are both going to be negative, add up to this negative number. So I got to keep that in mind. So here I have 1 and 6, but if they're both going to be negative, there's no way that they can add up to -5. Whereas if I do 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 1 is 3, the negative of each of those, -2 and -3, do add up to 5. So that's going to be my combination. So that means the 3 has to multiply the 1. So that means the 1 is going to be in this position, because that's going to be my outside multiplication. And here the 1x has to multiply the 2. So that's going to be the inside multiplication, and both subtractions. All right, and then we can just check 3x squared, -3x minus 2x is -5x, -2 times -1 is +2. So it works out. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Now again, I notice that the A term is prime number. So I know I'm going to have 3t in the first position and t in the second position. So not a bad idea to actually just write that out. Kind of makes you feel like you've got part of it done. Question is what am I going to do with this 8? Is it going to be 1 and 8 and 2 and 4? We'll have to check. Now again, these two numbers multiply to something positive, and then the outside and inside terms have to add up to something negative. So it makes sense that these two operations are both going to be negative. Now even if I just think of it, let's say it was 1 and 8. If I put the 8 here, I would have 3 times 8 is 24, way too big to help me get to -10. If I put the 8 here and the 1 there, I'm going to have 3 and 8. Oh, that's not going to work in terms of the -10. So I know that it's going to be 1 and 3, whoops, and it's going to have to be 2 and 4. Okay, just the question is what's the order? So let's do 2 and 12. Well, since they're both going to be negative, that's not going to help me get to -10. But if I do 4 and 6, that is going to get me to -10. So I'm going to have 3t has to multiply the 2. So it's going to be -2 here. And then the t1 has to multiply 4. So the -4 there. And let's check it quickly. 3t squared, -6 minus 4, -10t, -4 times -2, +8. All right. So let's move on to the last one. And this one here will be the most complex of them all because I've got non-prime numbers in both the A and C position. So I could try to, figure out which one's more likely to work, but I think I'm going to grind this one out. So I'm going to start with 1 and 6, 1 and 6. Now again, similar to the other two, we know that I should have had an equal sign there. We know that these two numbers are going to have to add up, have to multiply to something positive, and then my outside and inside addition has to come out to something negative. So I know everything's going to be negative here. So 1 and 36, clearly not going to work. 6 and 6, that's not going to get me to -13. So let's change one of them to 2 and 3. Okay, 2 and 18, that's not going to work. 3 and 12, that's still not going to work. So it's going to have to be 2, 3, and 2, 3. So let's just see which combination works. 4 and 9, yeah, that's going to get me to 13. So this is the combination that's going to work. So I'm going to have 2m and 3m, okay, and I need to multiply the 2m by 2. So that's going to go in that position, so minus 2. And then here, the 3m times 3, the inside multiplication, so that's going to be my minus 3. And let's see if it works. 6m squared, negative 4m minus 9m is negative 13, and negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Okay? So just to recap here, when you see something nice, like the coefficient of x being a prime number, write out your first terms in each bracket right away, because there's only one possible combination. Okay, in this case here, we had a prime, the other two cases non-prime, so this is where you're going to make your chart and figure out the other the last terms. Okay, and you start to develop an intuition as to what you might pick. You also start to develop an intuition to realize, these are both going to be negative because they have to multiply to something positive, but then your sum has to be a negative number. Whereas if this was an addition here, you would know that both of them would have to be positive. Okay, that's it for this one.